yikes, my guy. Cannibal headhunters are like problematic or like whatever. Click the links and you'll have clicked the links. So Tomb Raiders remasters will remain uncensored for the serfs. Instead, feature performative disclaimer condemning harmful impact of original games. There's this fascinating method these soy people have of just calling things toxic or harmful stereotypes. They label things, but they don't go into details. You know, 96, people probably thought that was pretty solid graphics because they were still comparing things to like the early 80s, like Atari 2600, which is just, I don't know how many pixels that was. It was just a couple of blinking lights. So where they call you, what they do is they call you all these istophobic labels, you know, sexy, racy, anti, whatever. But they don't call you a liar because they don't want to get into an argument based on the merits, because the facts don't support their side of the argument. So they attach those labels. Yike, my guy, touch grass. You're just a istophobe. They attach the labels. They just label you, which, you know, oddly enough, I said, like, never label people racist. Like, okay. And then they run away, or Hugo Boss, and then they deflect from any logical discussion because they don't want to have the discussion before a crowd because the audience might come reasonably to the wrong conclusion. Well, for them, because their protagonists are our antagonists. And what can reasonable people disagree without being disagreeable? Hugo Boss says what? It's related to why the left can't meme, because a meme is subtle. It's not wordy. The viewer uses the graphics to reach the conclusion. The viewer makes up their own mind, but the left can't present information this way because the viewer will reach their own conclusion, not the conclusion intended by the meme creator, which is going to be some stupid soy point. That's why they have these long convoluted. Well, that's why they have to first censor and deplatform, because they have bad ideas that don't withstand debate. That's the brutal reality of it. If the right has free speech, the right wins. The left has a history of bad ideas that put people in the ground as fertilizer. So the left are big believers in knowing what is good for you and how to run society, even if they're drug-addicted comic book writers begging for money online for rent. Hey, if I was Mags and was able to get $5,000 for, guys, I need $5,000, well, not for rent, but I need $5,000 as well. So go click on my links and just give me, no, probably should not give me $5,000. Probably should not be giving Mags $5,000 either. I will thank Mr. Nature for getting the computer. So the thing is, it's always the comic shop crowd without any experience, or the coffee shop crowd, like the barista crowd is, I was going to say, making like muffins and stuff. They're not even making the muffins on site. They buy them off site, and I used to have a girlfriend who worked at a coffee shop. She was a manager, so she brought me home all the food. Oh God, it was so sweet. I think I stayed with her just for the free food. So it's that coffee shop crowd without any experience in anything, like running a big family or being responsible in a business and taking care of people and having people dependent on you and being like the center of a network, a spider web of, being part of a community of people, or it's family or a business, whatever. You're responsible for all these people depend on you, and it's this interconnectedness where the Bolsheviks, the left wing, have this found family concept. I'm gonna go into it more on the other channels. It's because it's fucking evil. It's just evil. It's like all your ideas lead to well fertilized fields. Yes, that's right, but it'll be different this time if we're in charge. You serve coffee, dude. Like these 300-pound idiots. I don't want to call them losers because they're victims of the same. No, you understand? It's capitalism. Like, buddy, it can be capitalism or communism. It's the same people in charge. So they no. I might be addicted to whatever, but I know how to, and like addicted to pharmaceuticals and prawn and whatnot. But they know how to run a country. It's like you can't even believe the things you're saying. Like, these are childhood ideas that you put aside once you hit like 13. So this concept of the left wing just labeling their opponents as problematic or Hugo Boss or whatever is because, like, with a video game that has Tits McGee here fighting cannibals, is that the left doesn't want to discuss the very real reality of cannibal Pacific Island headhunters, which is that's just the way of the world. That's because they existed, and that reality is a problem for the soy people. Because the left thinks that third world people have to have these left-wing, city-dwelling people's values. But they, you understand, I have a degree in, I don't know, whatever they get their bachelor's in. It's like something stupid, sociology or something, just absolutely pointless, right? And then no, you understand? I have a master's in something again, like English poetry from the whatever. It's like great. So you know how to run a civilization. That's fucking. How many kids do you have, and what business do you have? Nothing, because I'm paying off $200,000 of student loans. That was your first mistake. So the left wing thinks that these left wing people who are, I don't know, I guess earthier, more realistic, have the same values, but they don't. And when you point out the facts of what they're doing, they hate you for it, but they don't hate the brown people, because that makes their head explode. Except under certain circumstances where they have to figure out the oppression, the imaginary Frankfurt School oppression hierarchy, because the leftists will make sure that they put themselves at the top of it. That's why the whole BLT thing started, so they could say that they're a member of that community, so that puts them as the most marginalized and oppressed, and thus they're not speaking from a place of privilege. This is, I mean, it's all nonsense, but they have to abide by these new, the Frankfurt School rules, and honestly, it does feel like the puppet masters are kind of losing control of the narrative a little bit, because some people are kind of getting off the plantation. So the left wing and the third world people don't have their values, and when you point that fact out, they get really triggered by that, because it's super problematic, because in their worldview they don't have agency, where they have this bizarre straw man worldview. And I was talking to one the other day, and he said something about the English prisoners who went to Australia, like built Australia in 200 years or whatever. He goes, yeah, but they genocided the Aboriginals who were there. Except not only did that not happen, the Aboriginals are not the first. Well, there's nobody native to Australia, because that's not where they originated. But the Aboriginals were not the first Australians. There was a people there before them. The Aboriginals literally ate them and genocided them. And so these liberal normies, they have this preconceived, brainwash, anti-white programs to run, and they can't break out of that routine. Where they'll get more offended by me using the phrase anti-white, because it allows them to fix on that phrase, which sometimes I'll bait people on Twitter with this kind of stuff. It allows them to fix on that phrase and deflect from the underlying probative and relevant aspect of the argument. They go from the top of the pyramid down a couple steps to, essentially ad hominem type of stuff, because argument of anything terrifies them. They've been brainwashed into what to think and not how to think. They have emotional-based arguments, but don't know how to respond when you counter with an emotion-based argument. I will say, when I was in school, junior college, back in the day, we're studying some American Indian stuff, and it was in that time period. It was a long time ago, friends. They were really honest about the brutality of the Indians. They didn't pull any punches. It was kind of a way. It was like wokeness was arising, but it was constantly getting beat down. So. And the thing is, there's just too much brutality. You can look into it. Like they would kidnap women and then cut one of the Achilles' heels so they couldn't run away. So, like sex slaves? Yeah, that's exactly what they were. Oh, the noble savage? More like red in tooth and claw. So anything that challenges their echo chamber causes an emotional response. You sound like a junior college student. I am. So the other interesting thing is that social media has banned the shortcut words that we use to describe them, and they're very stupid ideas. The F slur, gay, and the R slur, or gay used as a slur, really. And it's like, it doesn't really mean, same-sex attraction. Just means something frivolous and silly. So those have been replaced by woke and soy, which actually works out okay, because depending on the context, you know what soy and woke really mean. And those words woke really bothers the left wing. And then you can bait them in arguments on Twitter where they ask you to define it, and then I do define it, and then they don't know what to say to it. Oh, this is these woke soy boy. I did an uncensored version of this for the SubStar. Which would be the last video I ever made on YouTube. It wouldn't even be uploaded before the whole channel got banned. So the thing is, there's so much social engineering done on a globalist scale that I never noticed it before I started making videos, where the new town square is controlled by a handful of banks and tech companies. Because we're so dependent on tech, we end up having less real free speech than we had in the past, using private newsletters and meetings. I will say, who's that guy? He's on YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble. He's got huge platforms. Rob Braxton? I forget, Tech TV or something. Rob Braxton. He's I think he's a Chinese guy. He's a real pro liberty guy, and he's Rumble and Odyssey. He's got all his streams. I think he live streams on Rumble as well. The thing is, it looks like we have global communications, but you better hope he's Chinese, buddy. But that's only in potential, even when. But like nobody cares about confusing Polish, German, or Russian or something. It's like, oh, you guys all look the same. It looks like we have global communications, but it's only in potential. Even when you have total free political speech on Gab and BitChute and stuff, the European countries that are controlled by globalists just block their countries from accessing those sites without a VPN. So the governments are telling the adults that the government knows what ideas they may hear, what ideas reasonable men may entertain. That idea is insane when you say it aloud. So much of our thought, we never even get to follow the thought train to new ideas because of a subconscious fear of being canceled for wrongthink by our filthy puppet masters who are, doing kids on islands and whatnot. Where you have, or blood ritual, Abramovic type of stuff, you have less real free speech than you had 30 years ago. Think about that for a second. You have speech that is controlled by a dozen companies, the NGOs that actually run the West, and there is no government fighting for our rights to free speech on the internet because the government doesn't want free speech. I wish there was like a program to do this for me, or like hire somebody to adjust these things. The government doesn't want free speech either. It absolutely I could probably take screenshots and do it that way, but that's like an additional 5 minutes. It's kind of not worth it for YouTube. We're already under the thumb of these globalist puppet masters, but nobody notices because they've been conditioned to self-censor out of fear of cancellation. People don't even notice how bad things already are. So anyways, the SJWs have to have brown people fit inside their allowed parameters for useful idiots. Otherwise, they get confused and angry or put in the positions of calling the brown people far-right Hugo Boss Chads. I mean, that's how Gordian not their thinking is, whether they're calling like black guys, Hugo Boss type of stuff. Because, no, you understand. He doesn't have agency. He can't think for himself. He's just a useful puppet of the white people. So when you're in a racism competition and your opponent's a leftist, buddy, I concede defeat. Because in their worldview, some of the SJWs turn instantly into nationalists as soon as they find out that the non-white immigrants won't allow their kids to be brainwashed into like the BLT stuff in schools, that, trans, rainbow, kind of all that, stuff. These Twitter kids suddenly have no interest in respecting other people's cultures. It's like, yeah, their culture doesn't tolerate all that BLT trans kid type of stuff. Okay, well, then we need to deport them. If the brown people don't want their kids to be brainwashed, they want to remove the kids from the parents or literally deport the parents. Because once you scratch the surface of an SJW, it's a violent sociopathic communist underneath. Anyway, so you have a big-titted Lara Croft over here going on her adventures, just a silly video game. But the left finds it problematic and harmful, but never gets specific, because if you have her fighting a cannibal struggle snugglist headhunter, to the SJW soy boys, she's still the problem because the cannibals don't have agency. They just need to get some of that magic dirt that the first world apparently has, and that will change them. The other thing they do with their soy preamble virtue signal is that they're very seriously taking themselves very seriously and crapping all over the game designers from a few years ago, judging them by the current soy Frankfurt standards of today. They're saying that they are correct today and those people who created these things are wrong, but they weren't wrong. The people today are just globalist golems repeating the stupid bullshit talking points. People do things in their time period, and to judge it is obviously insane. Plus, they're implying that if you don't take it seriously, somehow you're not sensitive enough to these fictional video game characters. And it's all, just F-slur, J-slur, R-slur. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Check out the Subscribe Store or the Odyssey, and I'll see you guys all next episode.